Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Pits of Motor Chaos. This is your host, Dave. I got a line special guest, the Grumpy Gorilla, Jet Funny Car driver, Steve Cooke. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Dave?
I'm good. So I know you're happy to get that car finally ready.
Yeah, it was a little bit of an adventure trying to get it finally completed, but we're ready for 2020, man. We're pretty excited.
The car looks awesome.
Thank you, thank you. It's been a real vision and dream of mine to build this specific car. I've had a number of them over the years, and this is pretty much everything I've ever wanted in a jet car. Finally all come together. So I'm pretty excited.
So how long was the building?
Well, we started. That car was actually the Rolling Thunder Jet Funny car owned by Brad Januszewski for a long, long time, and I was a hired driver for him for a number of years, and I crashed that car 5 years ago at Bandimere Speedway, and Brad and I started rebuilding the car, and then he got busy with his business. I got busy with mine, and the car kind of sat. And then a few years ago, he decided to sell me the car, and I just took over building it, myself, solely as my car. And I got my longtime friend Jerry Siegel involved, who's done a bunch of fabrication and work for me over the years. Really good friend of my stepfather's, Joe Brown. And Jerry took on the project for me, and his wonderful wife Shelly was a big part in helping get that car put together. And of course, some other important people. Floyd Guerra helped out, and then Scott Arriaga out of Tucson did a bunch of the body work for me after I had a flaky guy sit on the car for 8 months here in Arizona, not getting my body work done. Otherwise, we were expecting to be running here in 2019, but couldn't quite get it wrapped up with this guy that couldn't manage to get my fiberglass work done. So, but we pushed hard at the end of this year, and we got it wrapped up, and we're excited and ready to go. We're going to start doing some testing early part of January, and we're booking races already, so it's pretty exciting.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, I had the opportunity to meet Jerry and Shelly at when they came to Great Lakes Dragway this year and last year for the jet show.
Yeah, they don't get any better than those two guys, man. They've really been good friends of mine for a long time, and I'm looking forward to doing some racing with them this season.
Yeah. I would love to see you come up the Great Lakes Dragway. That would be awesome, man.
I don't know if I'll get back that way this year. We're kind of focusing on a tour up in Canada, so we're going to do a number of races up there and do some West Coast stuff. And then we'll think about maybe doing something like that in a year or two. But we're kind of going to keep it out west and up north this year is what our plans are. I own a construction business, so I'm not looking to race the way I used to when I was younger, where I'd do 15 or 20 races a year. There was a time where me and my dad had a semi truck and 2 jet cars, and we'd travel anywhere, anytime, and it's not really feasible to do that anymore. So, we're kind of picking and choosing what we want to do, and right now this year we're going to kind of keep it out west. But heck, you could always get in the car and come on out here and check us out.
Okay. Now, how'd the Grumpy Gorilla name come about?
Well, I knew when I was building this car that I didn't want to name it Rolling Thunder, because that was that car that name's been around for a long time, and there's been a couple different owners with that car over the years, and that's sort of their legacy, and it didn't really fit with a 53 Corvette. You know, this car is I'm trying to kind of keep it, for lack of better terms, period, correct. You know, I want to have that old school nostalgia, cartoony 70s gasser sort of look. And so I was spitballing names with some buddies, and for years, because I'm a pretty big guy, 6'3", 250 pounds. My friends over the years have nicknamed me the Silverback because I'm big like a gorilla, and so I started kind of thinking about that, and then I just kind of came up with the Grumpy Gorilla, and I said, man, wouldn't it be cool to put a gorilla on the car? And it's just something different, It's not your normal fire, heat, smoke, burn, whatever your typical jet car name. I just wanted something totally different, and I think we nailed it with the Grumpy Gorilla.
Now, are you a grumpy guy?
No, heck no, I'm a good time. I'm a good time. No, but that car is pissed off. Believe me, when you see some videos of this thing, it is big power, big fire, really loud, and it's grumpy. It's nasty on the starting line, let me tell you.
Yeah, I like that name, man. Yeah, I understand where you're
Thank
coming.
you.
I understand where you're coming from though, with the nostalgia feel, going back to like the same like the top fuel funny cars when they all used to have their own name back in the day instead of having all the sponsors on there. Everyone used to have a unique name on there.
Exactly, like Jungle Jim,
Yep.
had a cartoon on it, and so that's kind of the look I was going for.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Thank you.
So now, how did you get into drag racing? Your dad got you into drag racing years ago?
Yeah. My stepdad Joe Brown has been he's no longer licensed as of a couple years ago, but he was a licensed jet car driver for about 30 years, and so in the late 90s, early 2000s, I started crewing for him, and made some test passes up in the White Mountains here in Arizona. At an airport runway in his 57 jet funny car called the Arizona Outlaw, which he incidentally crashed up in Medicine Hat, Canada, and flew over the top of that purple Rolling Thunder funny car that Brad Januszewski was driving.
Wow.
So I was actually at some point going to probably take over driving duties on that 57, and then hopefully eventually buy the car, but that thing ended up in a million pieces. So I took that engine out of what was left of the debris of Joe's funny car and built a dragster, and built my first car. And I've been owning and driving since 2001.
Wow. So how many jet cars have you gone through?
Well, I had the dragster. We called that one the Last Outlaw, kind of in remembrance of the Arizona Outlaw because it had its engine in it. And then my dad started crewing for me and decided that he didn't really like watching me go down the track. It's a different deal when you watch a family member come down the racetrack at those speeds. So he was like, I'd rather just race side by side with you. So he went and bought the jet tank, the secret weapon jet tank from our friend out in California, Bob Vance. And he started running. And what we found was nobody was really booking the tank versus a dragster, because that dragster was pretty quick, and the tank's a little bit slower, more of a theme car. So after about a season and a half of us never racing together, which was kind of the whole goal as a family, we always liked to be together, I decided to disassemble the dragster, and some buddies here in town that own a truck shop and did some real nice fabricating work. They took some sheet metal and some parts that Bob had donated us from an old jet half track that they had built out in California years and years before, and then they had taken apart and Bob had those parts out in his shop and said, "Hey, come get these things and make the half track, and then you and Joe could go running side by side." So that's what we did. We kind of rebuilt the War Wagon Jet half track and raced it side by side with the Secret Weapon Jet tank. And me and Joe got us a semi truck, and we went and campaigned those two cars for a number of years. And then his business as a safety engineer got real busy, and my business, owning a construction company, got real busy. And we decided to sell those cars to our buddy up in Canada, Brad Janaszewski. And we just kind of became hired drivers for him. And we did that for a number of years. Joe then decided, he kind of had enough of driving jets and retired. And I continued doing that until a few years ago when I decided to kind of break off and do my own thing and start building this car. So I've driven for some people over the last couple of years, and but I've really kind of been focused on getting this car done, and now I'm going to go back to doing my own thing again. So that's kind of the Reader's Digest of my racing deal.
So now, Steve, how was the experience like the first time ever going down the track in a jet car?
Oh, when you're doing that for the first time, it's pretty surreal. It's sort of a lot of things are moving. You don't really have your bearings too much. You're just sort of looking for the stripe at the end, and then you're there. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you get, and things really start to slow down, and it's just not as fast, and you see things in a lot slower motion the more you do it. Like anything else, kind of like riding a bike. First time you got on a bike, it was like, man, what's going on here? But the more you do it, the easier it gets, and the more comfortable you get. So I've been doing it so long now, it's just kind of like riding a bike.
So jets are the only cars you've ever drag raced in, right?
Yeah. I've done a little bit of. I've gotten in a couple other vehicles, but nothing to speak of. I would love to drive something else, but the opportunity has never really presented itself. Some people have talked about it, and we've never quite got there. But jets are my thing, man. It's what I was raised on. It's what I do, and I'm happy with that.
So now, would you consider your stepdad your biggest influence?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, he brought me into this. He was my mentor, along with not quite as significant because he wasn't around as much, but Jerry Siegel's been right there with me. I mean, he's always been there as far as fabrication, maintenance, technical questions. I mean, the guy's a genius, right? And he's always been there for me. So, but if it comes right down to it, yeah, Joe, Jerry, and then Brad. Brad's had a lot to do. I mean, that guy, Brad Janaszewski, raced John Force. When back in the day when he was running nitro cars. I mean, he's got a rich history of racing too. So, and the thousands and thousands of miles I've sat in the pickup truck with him going down the road, talking about racing, and just it's ridiculous how much all these guys, I mean, and then just, you got good guys like my buddy Floyd Guerra that is always there helping me out and speaking words of wisdom and keeping me in check when I think I want to do something stupid. These guys are all there, keeping their eye on me, and I appreciate that. So
now, isn't Floyd gonna build a jet car for himself?
I don't know. Floyd's got a fuel altered, and he might build a jet car. I don't know what his plans are. Floyd's always got a bunch of irons in the fire, so I don't know this week what he's doing, but it wouldn't surprise me.
I know I did it.
He's a race car guy, man, and he's always got something up his sleeve, so I wouldn't be surprised.
I did message him the other day and ask him if he's going to drive Jets next year. He said he might jump in a couple times.
Yeah, you never know.
But he said he was building a car. I maybe meant altered.
I know he's got that altered, and he's talked to me about another project, which I'm not going to speak about just because I don't know if he's how public he's going to make it, or if that's going to be sort of something he just debuts after it's done. But like I said, Floyd's always got something going on, so don't be surprised if you see something cool here in the next year or two.
So now, were there any other drivers influential to you, like say like in an NHRA or anything?
I've always been a big fan of Larry Dixon. I always thought that guy, did things the right way, and so I was a big fan of him. I was a big fan of Don Prudhomme. As far as the big guys are concerned, Gary Scelzi I thought was a top notch guy. I don't really spend much time around those guys. I mean, that's just my take on checking them out on TV and being around them a little bit at the racetrack, but really not too much, because normally when those guys are running an event, we're somewhere else performing across the country somewhere. So, I don't spend too much time around those guys. So all I know is the personalities that I see on TV, like most people, and so they don't really influence me too much. More the people I spend time with.
All right. So now, Steve, what's the fastest you've gone in a jet car?
My dragster I ran in Louisiana a number of years ago at 272. I did run my dragster in Kingman, Arizona on a runway, which we don't have a time for, but I went way past a quarter of a mile because I was not happy with the pilot that I was racing, and I wanted to make sure I won. And Floyd and some of the other guys that were there saw me run and said I was well over 300 and probably 20 miles an hour, because I took her way deep. It picked the whole back end up off the car, back end of the car up off the ground when the chutes hit, and so that was a quick one. But I don't know. There was no timing system, so we don't know for sure.
So what do you think about the jet?
Normally, these funny cars that I drive have been, because they're 34s and they're heavy. That Rolling Thunder car was running 240 miles an hour, 245 on a good night. Was pretty normal. The dragsters I've driven have gone faster than that, but we're hoping this new car, the Guerrilla, once we get it tuned, when Jerry starts helping me with some of his numbers and we start fine-tuning this thing, we're hoping to be in the 260s with this one. And I think that'd be a pretty appropriate number for a big, heavy car like that. And if I was running those numbers, I'd be real happy.
So what do you think about these jet dragster guys out there these days, like Scotty, Heaton, Danny Sullivan, and LZ going over 300 miles per hour? You think that's too fast?
Heck no. I think that's awesome. Heck yeah. I mean, if you can do it, and you want to do it, get after it, man. That's cool.
Because I got one buddy of mine, his nickname's Jet Car George. He said he thinks that's too fast for them to be going.
I know Jet Car George, the photographer.
Yep,
right?
yep.
Yeah, he messages me every once in a while.
Video guy, actually.
It's only too fast if you're scared if you're scared to do it. It's not too fast if you're confident in your machine and your abilities. I mean, we all understand there's risks involved, right? Yeah. Scotty had that incident earlier this year, and but he understands the risks, and what I understand, he's going to be back out this year doing it again. And so we all know, I mean, I wadded one up pretty quick at Vandermeer, and here I am. I was racing a week and a half later. You know, you understand the risk involved, and if you like what you do and you love it, you do it, and you don't want to do anything else. So.
Yeah, it was a shame though how Cat Muller, how she went like that though.
Absolutely. It's always a tragedy when we lose somebody doing this deal, right? I mean,
Yeah, I know she was doing something
supposed to be fun,
something she loves to do, but she's so young though.
right?
Yeah.
Agreed. Tragic.
Oh yeah. So now, when you get this car out, how many crew members are you gonna have? You have any crew members picked yet?
Oh, that's the thing about jet cars. It's like, you always raffle your best buddies into it, and they think it's fun, and then you use and abuse them and drag them all over the country, and then they say, okay, I'm not doing that anymore, and then you got to find new ones. And that's pretty much how it works, right? I mean, all of my really close friends, that I'm still really close with, have crewed for me 20 years ago. Those guys aren't going to do it anymore because they've been down that road. And so, but Floyd's always been there with me, and he'll go out and help me when he can. And I've got some employees that are interested in helping, and I got some buddies who haven't who are new to the jet car thing, but have been friends with me for a number of years, and so they're like, yeah, I want to come help. And it's just nobody said I want to be your crew chief and I'll be there every race with you, because it just doesn't. Nobody can make those kind of commitments anymore. But we'll always find somebody to drag along and help us get it started and help us get things done. As you know, this jet car thing isn't too complicated, so you don't need a whole bunch of help. But it's fun to travel down the road with your friends and meet new people too. So we'll get her figured out one way or another.
So you don't got no kids?
I do. I've got one who's in college. He's a senior at Arizona State University, so he's got 1 year left.
So what is he thinking about the jet car thing?
What? Say again?
I said, what is he thinking about Dad driving jet cars?
What did I think about my dad driving jet cars?
No, your son. How does he feel about you driving jet cars?
Oh, what does he think?
Yeah.
He's been raised on me driving jet cars, right? So I've been driving for 19 years, and he's 22. So, pretty much, it's just what Dad does, right? He doesn't talk about it much. He doesn't brag about it. A lot of times he'll bring his friends over, and they'll see a race car or find out that's what I do, and they'll say, like, Gavin, why didn't you tell me your dad does this cool racing deal? And he's like, I don't know, it's just what he does. It's just not a big deal to him. He's just sort of a laid-back kid who used to race junior dragsters, and he just kind of goes with the flow, and I think he probably thinks it's kind of cool, but he didn't talk too much about it.
No, did he ever, help you crew when you were out there with the jet?
Absolutely. Some of my favorite pictures of him are when we would be packing the parachutes, and he was about 5 years old, and he was the pilot chute guy. He would stand behind me with the pilot chute, and as I was packing the chute, he would walk right behind me, and as soon as I was ready for it, he'd hand it to Dad, and I'd stuff it in the can. So, yeah, he went to a lot of races. We put him in the semi truck, and him and Grandma sat in the back and read books while we cruised down the highway, and he had a good old time. He's seen a lot of country.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun.
So now, with the new jet funny car, what kind of jet engine do you have on?
It's a Westinghouse J34, -34, which is pretty much the engine that I've been using in all the cars that me and Joe have had. Now, a lot of guys consider them kind of archaic and old and heavy, but it's what we prefer. They are a little bit heavier. The cars are a little bit slower, but this is exhibition. This is all about the show, and these things are super loud, super huge fire, and when tuned right, they can perform. They can perform pretty well. They're not. It's not going to be a 300 mile an hour funny car. It's not going to be a 280 mile funny car. But I do believe that when we tune this thing properly, we're going to be in the 250s, 260s in a mid to lower mid 6-second run, and that's pretty respectable considering the size of the car and the line show that this thing does. I mean, the fire is just awesome. And with the theme that we've got with the gorilla and stuff, it's going to make a lot of people smile. And I think that's the most important thing.
Oh yeah, the kids are gonna like that.
Yeah, they're gonna love it. And if the kids like it, then they're gonna want to keep coming back to the track. And the track promoters like it, and it puts people in the seats, and we're doing our job.
Now, is that car painted or is that a wrap?
That's a wrap.
Now, who put the wrap on the car?
A company here in town, here in Chandler, Arizona, called Wolf Designs. Really a top-notch outfit. They do a lot of like desert racing trophy trucks and side-by-sides and things like that. But they do a lot of really custom stuff. They're really well known here in town. And I'm really, really pleased with their artist. He took my design and my vision and really brought it right, just nailed it. And then their install team was just phenomenal. They knocked that thing out in like 2.5 days, and I couldn't be happier. It's just perfect.
Now, as far as the body goes, what is the make of the body on that car?
It's designed after a 1953 Corvette. That's what the mold is.
Yeah, that car is beautiful, man.
Thank you. There's only one 53 Corvette jet funny car that I know of, and it's sitting right here in my shop, so that's pretty cool.
Now, when you're on the track, Steve, when you're on the starting line, do you have any pre-race rituals or superstitions when you're out there?
I wouldn't say any superstitions. Me and Brad's wife, Heather, that I used to race side by side with for years, would always get a piece of gum right before we put our helmets on, and one of us always had a pack of gum on us. I think that's probably the only thing that I've always done is I always put a piece of gum in my mouth over the last probably 10 years of racing. And if my wife's there or my son's there, I always kiss them. Usually I always give my crew members a quick hug or a pat on the back, and that's about it, I guess.
All right. So now, do you have any sponsors for this new car?
No, just my company. Just my business. I would be open to doing some sponsors, but to be honest with you, with sponsorships come, commitments and requirements of things that they want you to do that I'm not quite sure I want to do. I want to run this car my way and not have to do a bunch of corporate displays and show up to things that people want me to do if I don't want to do them. So I kind of like the idea of just sponsoring my own car and racing as much as I want or as little as I want. Because I've done that whole thing where I had to run around and be here and be there, and I don't have time for that. I'm really not interested in it.
Right,
I just kind of want to go and run this car because I like to go fast and I like to travel and I like to see my friends, and jet cars are kick-ass, so I just enjoy doing it. And I want to do it with my friends and my family and not be told where I need to be, and, I'm just not into it.
All right, so the sponsor is your pocket.
My sponsor is me, man.
Yep. So what kind of preparation goes into, for you to get a jet car ready for a weekend?
Well, it'll be in the shop, and we'll do our normal routine maintenance of checking the hot end, making sure that we don't have any compromised blades, check for leaks. Just your normal race car maintenance on a jet car is the major stuff is in the off season, and then you have a number of checks that you do throughout the course of the season to make sure that you're safe. You put it on the rack, you check your chassis, try and identify anything that could be compromised or could be a problem. You check your parachutes. Things of that nature, and then of course, before getting ready to leave, you got to get your things loaded up and your things packed, and make sure you got your spare parts and your spare chutes and all that stuff, and away you go. Hopefully, you got everything in the trailer you need. If not, hopefully you got some friends that do. If you need something, but it's just. We're all, for the most part, a pretty tight-knit community that's willing to help each other out if you need something. So that's good.
Well, that's why drag racing is just one big family.
That's right.
So now, what kind of fuel you gonna be running for that jet?
Oh, we just put diesel in it. Start it with a gallon of gasoline, run it with number 2 diesel out of the pump. Whatever we got left over, we put in the truck and drive ourselves home.
So how many gallons is that one going to take?
Around about 28 gallons per pass. So most of that, of course, is used up on the starting line.
Yeah, the fire show.
Yeah.
Burner pops.
Yeah, just getting it up to full power. Without heating the hot end up and hurting something, so.
Now, are you going to be doing any special burner pops with that thing?
Oh, I got a pretty aggressive line show. Yeah, I'm sure you'll see some videos of it this year, but yeah, I get after it pretty hard. That's some of the funnest part of driving a jet car is how you play with it on the starting line. So I get after it pretty good. It's fun.
Now, what are some of your favorite tracks to go to?
I absolutely love racing in Canada. I've made so many friends up there over the years racing for Brad that some people think I'm half Canadian because I know the place so well and I have so many friends up there. So I really like racing in Edmonton at Castle Raceway. I really enjoy running in Saskatoon. Mission's been pretty fun. Raced there a couple times. I raced in Newfoundland in eastern Canada on the island, which was pretty amazing. One of my favorite all-time tracks, which I would probably put on the top of the list, was Rocky Mountain Raceways in Salt Lake City. Unfortunately, that closed a couple years ago, and that was just a heartbreaker to see that track go away because we used to have some really amazing events there where, they would book in 18 to 20 jet cars in one night, and what a show that was it was so fun to be a part of that. So it was very disappointing for that track to be gone. And then, of course, I love running my local tracks. Wild Horse Pass here in Phoenix and then down in Tucson is a lot of fun because you get to see your your friends and the local stuff. So, and then I've been a bunch of other places. You know, I've raced in Ennis and Arkansas, and, up in Oregon and through California. Looking like we might be booking a race in Sacramento this year. Looking forward to that. Haven't been there in a number of years, so every track's different. They're all fun in their own way. So and it's fun to go to new places. So I'm open to anything.
All right. Now, where do you get all your fire safety equipment from?
I get most of my stuff through my buddy Jaron Mott up in Utah, and you know he's a dealer rep for most brands. So I've got a new Pyrotech helmet that I'm pretty excited about wearing. I used to wear Simpson stuff all the time. I still got a Simpson suit, and yeah, I got some Beast. Gears, it's just a hodgepodge of everything. But mostly, my main point of contact if I need something is my buddy Jaron up in Utah. He gets me whatever I need.
You need to get a grumpy gorilla picture on your helmet.
You know, so the thing about my helmets is every one of my helmets, I've always said Hollywood on it. And the reason for that is my first paid race was in Monterrey, Mexico. And Joe, my dad, told me, you never chump them on the starting line, Steve. You always go crazy on the starting line. Give them lots of fire and really put a good show on the starting line. It's really important. So I took that really to heart. And so my first paid race, I was on the starting line in Monterrey, Mexico. And I ran out of fuel on the starting line, just as the tree was coming down. Car shut off, and one of the lawyers that had escorted us over the border walked up to me and stuck his head in my car and says, "Too much fire, dude." And we all kind of laughed and towed me back to the pit, and fueled me back up again, pulled me out, and I didn't do quite as much fire show on the starting line and ran my car down the track. Well, I was racing with a bunch of people down in Mexico that weekend at my first race. One was Mark Smith. I don't know if you've seen, he drives that big fire truck, big red one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Mark's a really good friend of mine, and Dennis Roslansky was there. And anyway, Mark and Sheila came up to me and said, Mark says, "Man, we're going to nickname you Hollywood. Your first paid race, you ran out of fuel on the starting line. We're going to call you Hollywood Steve Cooke from now on." And so people have been calling me Hollywood for years because of that night. And every one of my helmets says Hollywood on it. So, but over the years I have airbrushed some gorillas onto some helmets, but they always say Hollywood. Every one of them.
So now, what would you consider to be some of the milestones that you've reached in your jet career?
Oh, geez, I don't know. They don't give a whole bunch of records out to guys like me. I think the most important thing for me is the relationships I've built. I've just met so many incredible people. From, you know, I met and taught Jaron Mott how to drive a jet car, and he's one of the most talented, naturally gifted race car drivers I've ever met in my life. There's nothing that kid can't drive, and he drives it better than anybody I've ever met. He should have a top fuel ride right now, as far as I'm concerned. He's an unbelievable driver. But, you know, the relationships that I've made with my friends up in Canada, the relationships I've made with my local friends, you know, meeting people and traveling down the highway with guys like Ansel Horton were some highlights. I mean, to me, it's the relationships and the friendships. That's the most important thing for me. I haven't done anything in a jet car that hasn't already been done or won't be done in the future. That shit doesn't matter, right? My cars aren't that fast. I think I put on a good show. I think I make people smile and laugh and enjoy themselves. But for me, the most important things are the relationships.
Do you have any hobbies outside of jet cars?
Well, I own a construction company. I do residential remodeling and concrete work, and so um, I'm pretty consumed with those projects, and I really like building cool stuff. So I have a lot of time and spent doing that, and then I'm a car guy, right? So I've got a '66 Impala, hot rod that's under construction. I've got a '85 C10 pickup truck that's getting some engine swaps and transmission swap, and we're working on that. And I've got another dually, '90s Ford dually that we're lowering and playing with. So I've got all kinds of things that I'm constantly doing. We like to go out in the desert with our Jeep and go four-wheeling, so there's always something going on. And I like sports, too. I'm a big-time Miami Dolphins fan and Arizona State football fan, so I've always got something I'm doing, it seems like.
All right, so what's been one of your most embarrassing moments on the starting line?
Well, I guess I would have to say it was probably that night that I ran out of fuel, but it was probably one of the funniest, most memorable nights, too. So, I've also run out of fuel a couple of times going down the track because I got a little too aggressive on the starting line. But, other than that, it's when you get to the starting line, it's business time. So I'm usually pretty focused and usually don't embarrass myself too much. I usually perform pretty well as far as I'm concerned.
All right, so the time you ran out of fuel, do you consider your fondest memory?
Well, probably on the starting line, yeah. I mean, I've had some races where, I've had some races that would be my fondest memories where I wasn't expected to beat a car that was a lot faster than me, and I confused him and messed him up on the starting line and left him standing there, and my old slow car put a whooping on him. And I got a couple of those stories, but there's a whole bunch of them. But
Yeah, I'm sure.
I would probably have to say that starting line one was one of the funnier ones, anyway.
Then I'm sure some of your fondest memories have to be going side by side with your dad.
Absolutely. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of side-by-side races with him, and that was a lot of fun, Probably my favorite race, and racing with him, and then also racing with Heather Janishewski. She and I spent a lot of time going down the track together, and man, we timed our line show so we did burner pops at the exact same time, and we were completely in sync together. And that was a whole bunch of fun because you got two jet cars doing burner pops at the exact same time. It was loud, and the fans really enjoyed it.
All right, now, so Steve, for people to follow you, what's going to be going, where you're going to be going with the jet and all that? What's the best way to the like page on Facebook?
Yeah, so we've got a Grumpy Gorilla Jet Funny Car page, and then we also have a website. It's grumpygorillajetcar.com, and then also you can like me, Steve Cooke, Cooke, and I'm always constantly talking about the jet car on there as well. So any one of those three. One of those three pages, you can always kind of figure out what we'll be doing. We'll be posting our schedule here. We're hoping to have it finalized sometime in January as to all the tracks we'll be at, and then of course we'll make those public on Facebook and on our webpage. So
awesome. Well, Steve, I want to thank you very much for taking time to do the interview.
Oh, thank you. I know we've been talking about this for a number of years, Dave, so I'm glad we finally got it done. I appreciate the time.
No problem, and we'll do another one in the future.
Okay, sounds good, buddy. Take care.
And I hope you have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, buddy.
Same to you, sir. I look forward to seeing you down the road someday.
All right, you have a good night, buddy.
You too. Take care now.
Bye.
Bye-bye.